My girlfriend kept texting her ex as a friend, so I left her phone on red, walked out without drama, and she's still trying to justify it. I'm a 27-year-old guy, and until recently I thought I had the perfect relationship. For almost 3 years I was with a woman I genuinely believed was my forever. We weren't just dating, we were partners, teammates, best friends rolled into one. We had our rituals, late-night drives just to get ice cream, Netflix marathons where we'd argue over what to watch, and long talks about where we saw ourselves in 5 years. Moving in together wasn't a question of if, but when. She was woven into the fabric of my daily life, and I honestly couldn't picture a future without her in it. To everyone around us, we were the golden couple. My friends told me how lucky I was, my parents would gush about her whenever her name came up, and even coworkers who had met her once or twice told me how adorable we were together. It gave me this sense of security, like what we had wasn't just real. It was visible to the outside world, undeniable proof of something solid, and I let myself believe it completely. But here's the thing. In quiet moments, I'd notice little things that didn't quite add up. Her phone seemed to buzz at odd hours, and she always angled the screen away from me when she typed. Sometimes she'd smile down at her messages, the kind of smile that looked personal, like it belonged to a joke I wasn't part of. When I asked, she'd laugh it off, saying, "Oh, just my coworker," or "You wouldn't get it," and I told myself not to overthink it. I figured I was just being insecure, maybe too sensitive because I'd been burned before. I convinced myself that trust meant letting those doubts go. But then something happened that I couldn't just shake off. It started small, like most cracks in a foundation do. She began staying up late, curled on the couch with her phone glowing against her face. I'd come out of the bedroom, half asleep, and ask what she was doing. She'd quickly tilt the screen away and say, "Just work stuff, go back to bed." Sometimes it was, "I'm just texting a friend, don't worry." The words were casual, but the way her tone stiffened made me wonder if there was something to worry about. At first, I tried to ignore it. Everyone texts late at night sometimes, right? But the pattern grew. She'd chuckle softly to herself at messages I couldn't see, her thumbs moving quickly over the screen. When I leaned in to ask, "Who's that?" she'd snap back with a defensive edge. "Why are you being nosy? Don't you trust me?" It wasn't just an answer. It was a challenge, and it left me feeling guilty for even asking. That guilt sat heavy in my chest. I'd lie awake wondering if I was becoming one of those boyfriends. Clingy, insecure, the kind who checks phones and imagines betrayal where there is none. Part of me hated the idea of snooping, but another part of me hated the idea of being played for a fool even more. So I swallowed the doubts, plastered on a smile, and told myself it was nothing. Still, her behavior gnawed at me. The phone face down at dinner. The sudden bathroom breaks where she'd disappear with her phone in hand. The way she'd jump when a message popped up and quickly swipe it away. It was all small stuff, the kind of things you could explain away individually. But together, it painted a picture I wasn't ready to look at, and deep down, I had a feeling that picture was only going to get clearer. The confirmation came on an ordinary Tuesday night in the most unremarkable way. We were sitting on the couch, half watching some show while she scrolled through her phone. She got up to grab water, and for once, she left her phone on the armrest. That's when I saw it, a notification lighting up the screen, a name I instantly recognized. Her ex, my stomach dropped. 3 years together, and not once had she mentioned they still talked. I picked up the phone, not to snoop, but to double-check if my eyes had really seen what they saw. Sure enough, it was a message preview. Something light, with a laughing emoji at the end. Familiar, casual, comfortable. When she came back, I asked as evenly as I could, "Why is your ex texting you?" She froze for a second, then gave me a dismissive smile. "Oh, that? He's just a friend. We've known each other forever. Don't make this into a big deal." Her tone was so relaxed it almost made me feel stupid for asking. But I couldn't let it go. "Why didn't you tell me you still talk?" That's when the shift happened. Her eyes narrowed, her voice sharpened. "Wow. So now I can't even talk to old friends without being interrogated? You sound controlling. Do you not trust me at all?" The words hit me harder than I expected. Controlling, distrusting. The kind of boyfriend I swore I'd never be. I backed down, muttering, "I didn't mean it like that." She shook her head, rolling her eyes, and went back to her phone like nothing happened. But the damage was done. She had managed to flip my concern into guilt, and I sat there wondering if I really was the problem. Still, deep inside, I knew something about this didn't sit right, and once that seed of doubt is planted, it only grows. After that night, things didn't get better. If anything, her behavior only grew stranger. She started dimming her screen whenever I was nearby, and I'd catch her flipping her phone face down on the table as if it were second nature. Sometimes she'd step outside mid-conversation, claiming she needed fresh air, only to return 10 minutes later with her phone still in hand. When I asked who she'd been talking to, she'd shrug and say, "Just work stuff." Or, "My friend was stressing, no big deal." But the excuses stacked up, and they didn't feel harmless anymore. She stopped holding my hand on car rides like she used to. Our late-night ice cream runs turned into her saying she was too tired. Even when we were together, it felt like her attention was somewhere else, like I was sharing space with a body that was physically there but mentally absent. One evening, when her phone buzzed for the third time during dinner, I finally asked, "Are you sure everything's okay? You've been so distant lately." She slammed her fork down and gave me a look like I'd just accused her of a crime. "You're paranoid. Seriously, why do you keep making up problems that don't exist? Do you hear yourself right now?" Her words burned. She made it sound like I was crazy, like all these observations were just figments of my imagination. And for a moment I believed her. Maybe I was overthinking. Maybe I was letting past insecurities poison a good relationship. But the more I tried to convince myself of that, the heavier the pit in my stomach grew. Every laugh she had at her phone, every sudden trip outside, every excuse, it all felt like puzzle pieces I was forcing myself not to put together. And I knew, sooner or later, those pieces were going to form a picture I couldn't ignore. The turning point came one weekend when we were out with a group of friends. We were at a cozy little bar, the kind with low lights and too loud music, the kind of place we used to thrive in together. Normally, she'd be right by my side, laughing, making snarky jokes about everyone's terrible pool skills. But that night she was glued to her phone. I tried to brush it off at first, thinking maybe it was work or something urgent. But the way her lips curved into a private smile, the way her eyes lit up for whoever was on the other end of that screen, it wasn't the look of someone scrolling emails. It was intimate, alive, and none of it was directed at me. I leaned closer and whispered, "Everything okay?" She barely glanced up, muttered, "Yeah, just a friend," and went right back to typing. That's when one of my buddies, a little tipsy and oblivious, cracked a joke across the table. "Damn, who are you texting non-stop, your boyfriend?" The table erupted in laughter, except for me and her. Her face went red and she quickly shoved her phone into her bag, stammering, "It's nobody, just a friend." The defensiveness in her voice was sharp enough to cut the moment in half. I sat there, forcing out a laugh I didn't feel, my stomach twisting. In that instant, I wasn't her partner. I was the fool at the table, the guy being quietly disrespected while everyone else got the show. She avoided my eyes for the rest of the night, and I couldn't shake the humiliation burning in my chest. For the first time, I didn't just feel uneasy. I felt replaced. And that sting was something I couldn't laugh away. A few days after that humiliating night at the bar, one of my closest friends pulled me aside. He looked uneasy, almost like he was about to betray me himself. He lowered his voice and said, "Man, I wasn't sure if I should tell you this, but you need to see something." Then he handed me his phone. On the screen were screenshots, conversations between my girlfriend and her ex. My chest tightened as I scrolled, each message worse than the last. It wasn't just casual chatter. They were sharing inside jokes, reminiscing about the good old days, even bringing up places they used to go together. And then the gut punch, a line from her that read, "Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if we gave it another shot." I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. Every excuse she'd fed me, every "you're paranoid" she'd thrown in my face, it all collapsed under the weight of these words. She wasn't just talking to her ex. She was emotionally leaning on him, giving him pieces of herself that should have belonged to me. My friend looked at me, waiting for me to explode, but I didn't. I just stared at the screen, numb, my thoughts spinning. Anger was there, sure, but so was heartbreak. And under it all, a strange clarity. She had been lying to me, outright, while making me feel guilty for even asking questions. But I didn't confront her. Not yet. Something inside me told me to wait, to stay quiet, to see just how deep this rabbit hole went. Because if I was going to end this, I wanted to know the full truth first. After seeing those screenshots, something inside me snapped, but not in the way people might expect. I didn't rage, I didn't scream, I didn't confront her with the evidence. Instead, a cold kind of calm settled over me. On the outside, I acted like nothing had changed. I laughed at her jokes, I asked about her day, I kissed her goodnight. But on the inside, I was already gone. I started watching her more carefully. She claimed she had to stay late and study, even though I knew her coursework didn't require it. Other nights, she'd say she was hanging out with friends, but when I offered to join, she'd suddenly insist it was just girls' night. Each excuse was a thin cover, and I didn't even need to check her phone anymore. I knew exactly who she was really giving her time to. Every time her phone buzzed, I felt the sting, but I forced myself not to flinch. Every time she slipped outside to take a call, I pretended not to notice. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of seeing me break down. Not anymore. That's when I made my decision. I wouldn't beg for answers or fight for scraps of honesty. I wouldn't scream or cry or play detective anymore. Instead, I'd leave quietly. No dramatic scenes, no shouting matches. Just silence. Because silence, I realized, would speak louder than anything I could ever say. So I waited. I let her think she still had me wrapped around her finger. I let her keep lying, keep playing her game, all while I was secretly planning my exit, the kind she'd never see coming. And with every fake smile I gave her, the anticipation built. I knew the moment was coming, and when it did, it would hit her harder than any fight ever could. One night I woke up around midnight and realized she wasn't in bed. The glow of her phone lit up the living room and I could hear her voice. Soft, almost playful. I froze in the hallway just out of sight and listened. Her words cut like glass. He doesn't even notice. It's like I'm single. Honestly, I don't even know why I stay sometimes. She laughed lightly after, as if the person on the other end had said something funny. My chest tightened, each word a blade twisting deeper. For years, I'd been the guy who showed up for her, who bent over backward to make her life easier, who believed we were building something together. And now, in the dead of night, she was telling another man that I was basically invisible, that my love, my effort, my existence meant nothing. I wanted to storm into the room, to demand answers, to make her look me in the eye and repeat those words. But I couldn't move. My feet felt like they were nailed to the floor. I just stood there, listening, feeling smaller with every syllable. The worst part wasn't even her betrayal. It was how convincing she sounded, like she had rewritten our relationship in her head, turning me into some oblivious background character while she got to play the victim. When she finally hung up, I slipped back into bed before she noticed I was awake. I stared at the ceiling in the dark, my chest hollow, my heart numb. In that moment, I felt worthless, like I'd been nothing more than a placeholder in her life while she decided what she really wanted. It was my lowest point, the exact moment I realized the girl I loved wasn't just lying to me. She was erasing me. The morning it all ended felt strangely ordinary. Sunlight poured through the blinds, the smell of coffee lingering in the kitchen, the kind of slow weekend morning we used to savor together. She was still asleep, her phone sitting on the nightstand beside her. I wasn't even looking for anything when it buzzed, but the name flashing across the screen made my stomach twist. His name. Again. Her ex. I stared at it for a long moment, the preview of the message glowing like some cruel reminder. I didn't even bother unlocking it. I didn't need to. The truth had been screaming at me for weeks, and now it was right there in front of me. Undeniable. Something inside me clicked into place. Not anger, not sadness, just a quiet certainty. I picked up her phone, saw the message waiting, and simply set it back down. Unread. No drama. No confrontation, just clarity. I grabbed my bag, stuffed a few essentials into it, and walked through the apartment one last time. The silence was heavy, but it was also freeing. I didn't leave a note. I didn't slam the door. I didn't wake her up to demand she explain herself. She'd had 1,000 chances to come clean, and she never did. She didn't deserve another word from me. As I closed the door behind me, I felt a strange kind of peace wash over me. No shouting, no begging, no tears. Just finality. For months, I'd imagined that if this moment ever came, it would be explosive. That I'd scream, she'd cry, and everything would break into pieces. Instead, I walked away quietly. And in that silence, I realized something powerful. Sometimes leaving without a word is the loudest statement you can make. The texts started almost immediately after I left. At first, they were frantic. "Where are you? Why did you leave like that?" Then they shifted into excuses. "It's not what you think. He's just a friend. You're overreacting." I didn't answer. I sat there watching my phone light up, her words pouring in like a storm I no longer had to stand in. For the first time in months, I felt like I was in control. When I didn't reply, the tone changed again. She started begging, "Please, just talk to me. We can fix this. Don't throw us away over nothing." She even tried to guilt-trip me, reminding me of our years together, the plans we'd made, the life we said we wanted. But all I could see were the lies between those words. Then came the anger. Accusations. She called me controlling, insecure, pathetic for snooping. She claimed I had no right to walk away, that I was making a mistake I'd regret. The irony stung for a moment, but then it almost made me laugh. She was spinning in circles, trying every tactic, begging, guilt, rage, anything to reel me back in. I kept the phone face down on the table, the vibration buzzing like a reminder of the chaos I'd finally stepped away from. Every time I thought about picking it up, I asked myself, what good would it do? And the answer was always the same: none. So I stayed silent. No replies, no explanations, no closure for her to twist into another game. And in that silence, I found my own closure. For once, she wasn't the one in control of the story. I was. In the days after I left, the silence was overwhelming at first. I'd wake up reaching for my phone out of habit, expecting another storm of texts, but all that waited was stillness. It was strange, lonely even, but slowly that quiet started to feel like peace. I leaned on the people who had always been there, the ones I had unintentionally pushed aside while drowning in her lies. My best friend showed up at my apartment with takeout and just sat with me. My sister called every night, reminding me that I wasn't crazy, that the things I saw and felt were real. They reminded me of who I was before all the second-guessing, before the gaslighting made me question my own reality. Looking back, I can't believe how close I came to losing myself. She had me doubting everything, my instincts, my worth, even my sanity. I replayed moments in my head where I brushed off the red flags because I was afraid of being too much or too jealous. The truth was, I wasn't paranoid. I was being played. It hurt. I won't lie, it hurt like hell. But with each passing day, I felt pieces of myself coming back. I started running again, something I had stopped because she hated when I left her alone too long. I picked up my guitar, filling the quiet with something other than my thoughts, and slowly, I began to trust my own voice again. This whole mess taught me something I wish I'd learned sooner. Love shouldn't feel like constant doubt, or walking on eggshells, or apologizing for being human. Real love doesn't shrink you. It makes you feel safe, secure, seen. And while I don't know what my future holds yet, I know one thing for sure: I'll never let anyone make me question my worth again. A few months after everything went down, I thought I'd finally put her out of my mind. I was moving forward, focusing on myself, and for once life didn't feel like a constant storm. Then one of our mutual friends casually dropped something in conversation that nearly made me laugh out loud. Apparently, not long after I left, she had tried to make things official again with her ex, the same guy she'd been sneaking around with behind my back. But here's the kicker, he rejected her. Flat out. He told her he had no interest in rekindling anything serious and that she was living in the past. Hearing that was surreal. For so long, I had built up this invisible wall of self-blame. Like maybe if I'd been better or more trusting, things could have worked out. But learning that she ended up abandoned by the very person she risked everything for, that was closure I didn't even know I needed. It didn't stop there. A few weeks later, she tried circling back to me. I started seeing her name pop up again on my phone. "Hey, can we talk? I miss you." "You mean more to me than I realized." I stared at those messages with this strange calm, almost like I was reading them from a different life. And you know what I did? Nothing. No reply, no reaction. Just silence. Because walking away silently was the loudest thing I ever did. It was my way of saying, I'm done letting you rewrite the story. Done giving you the power to make me doubt myself. If there's one thing I learned, it's that sometimes the strongest revenge isn't yelling or proving a point or making a scene. Sometimes the strongest revenge is simply refusing to look back. And that's exactly what I did.